At the same time, it should be noted that refusing to accept Kyiv into NATO now is not enough. We are witnessing a nervous, if not on the verge of panic, Western reaction to Russian-American contacts. Surprisingly, the reaction of the West on Russian-American contacts. The Americans are the same West. How can this be? It turns out it can. Russian-American talks at the highest level cause a real hysteria among Euro-Atlantic Russophobes. In fact, we probably see such an unprecedented phenomenon in international relations, the imposition of its own participation in the negotiation process. You see, we are talking about some British EU friends of the criminal regime of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who demonstrate an inability to go beyond their own primitive attitudes to produce a hybrid war with our country to the last Ukrainian. Look, European Commissioner for Defense, Andrius Kubilius never tires of saying that, his quote, "For a just peace to be possible, it is necessary to increase the power of Ukraine." Look at Ukraine. I am addressing the EU people now. What have you done to it? Look at the people, at the citizens of this country. What kind of power do you want to increase? Sooner or later, they will all have to pay for what they have done.
Громко аукнутся многим представителям европейских элит, как соучастникам жестоких, кровавых преступлений.
Consequently, complicity with the modern Ukrainian Banderites may have a loud repercussion on many representatives of European elites as accomplices in the brutal bloody crimes of the neo-Nazi regime they have created. I will repeat once again.
И приведет к катастрофическим последствиям для всей Европы. При этом стоит отметить, что
Ukraine's membership of NATO, I have even spoken about it now, is unacceptable to us. It poses serious threats to our security and will lead to catastrophic consequences for the whole of Europe.
Гарантировалось вступление в Североатлантический блок в будущем. В противном случае эта проблема продолжит отравлять атмосферу на европейском континенте. Выползла.
At the same time, it should be noted that refusing to accept Kyiv into NATO now is not enough.
Мы услышали от представителя Евросоюза слова о том, что якобы российские мирные граждане, российское гражданское население не страдает, его не убивают, и оно не получает увечий.
The alliance must disavow its Bucharest promises of 2008, according to which Ukraine was guaranteed accession to the North Atlantic bloc in the future. Otherwise, the issue will continue to poison the atmosphere on the European continent. The monster crawled out at the Munich conference on alleged security policy, and we heard a representative of the European Union say that allegedly Russian civilians, Russian citizens are not suffering, they are not being killed and they are not being maimed. I refuse to believe that this was not a fake. We checked several times. We saw the video, and we realized that these people have no conscience. They repeat on international platforms that there is nothing of the sort.
Мюнхенская конференция по вопросам политики и безопасности отметилась еще и чествованием бывших и нынешних нацистов. Видимо, это уже становится у них традицией. Глава Мюнхенской конференции Хойсген назвал мероприятие, прямая цитата, «кошмарным сном для Европы». Хочется задать вопрос, а когда вы...
Having all the information, with names, surnames, dates of birth that we provide regarding those people, those citizens of Russia, those residents of the regions who are victims of the Kiev regime. Of course, in the year of the 80th anniversary of the victory in WW2, the Munich Conference on Security Policy was also marked by honoring former and current Nazis. Apparently, this is already becoming a tradition among them. Head of the Munich Conference, Christoph Husen, called the event a European nightmare. I would like to ask the question, when will you wake up? When will you wake up there, in Western Europe, from your nightmare dream? But the problem is not the conference. The problem is Western Europe itself. It has been in a state for a long time when it cannot soberly assess the surrounding reality. It lives by its own invented narratives. Instead of improving the welfare of its citizens, it is preparing for war with Russia. Instead of solving social and economic problems, it continues to destroy its industry and increase military budgets. Instead of fighting illegal migration, crime, and terrorism, it continues to hunt for Russian spies allegedly flooding Europe. The whole world is laughing at Western Europe. The event, which was intended by the organizers to analyze trends and formulate ideas on Euro-Atlantic security policy, was essentially reduced to a squabble between the two sides of the Atlantic. Of course, all of this was accompanied by the very same Russophobia that has become traditional for them. No one heard any constructive ideas about building a security architecture in Europe or in the world as a whole. This is not what we have gathered for. Not what we have gathered for all these years. Once again, the same old record about the alleged Russian threat to the European Union and NATO was played, and it was again claimed that the only recipe for peace is hegemony. It's already ridiculous to listen to this. Even if they did continue to talk about some kind of hegemony, it would be necessary to make a footnote and write that this hegemony is already agonizing. These are not recipes for peace. These are all just recipes for disaster.
What the changes in India's population and the differential growth rates.
This city has emerged.
We have a very special guest on the record.
The interview.
The role that the US side played at that point of time.
पूरी दुनिया की नजर.
Assume my phone is tapped. I can probably say hello to Mr. Modi.
आपके भारत पर है.
Episode of Know Your Candidate.
The rising confidence of India under Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Communist China is the greatest threat.
There will come a day that we will see far more radical extremists.
I'm still a little perplexed by why we...
Your daily dose of news from India and across the world. Cutting-edge views and analysis. Tune into HT videos. Click on the bell icon to subscribe.